Hello, everyone, and welcome back to AuthorStory, the home of authors and stories that matter. I'm your host, Alexander Lim, and this episode's featured guest is Dr. Ajaikumar. He got his bachelor's in medicine and surgery from St. John's Medical College in Bangalore, obtained his MD degree from the MD Anderson Hospital in Houston, and practiced medicine for 2 decades in the United States before returning to India in 2003. He formed Healthcare Global Enterprises in 2005, and as of 2019, HCG has 15 comprehensive cancer care centers. His book, which we will be talking about, is Excellence Has No Borders: How a Doctorpreneur Created a World-Class Cancer Hospital Chain. So, Dr. Ajay Kumar, welcome to Author Story. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for having me, Alex.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. So, I touched on the high points of your background during the introduction, but I'd also like to give, our listeners a bit more of your background. What was it that made you choose medicine? Did you think as a child that you wanted to become a doctor right from the start?
Um, it's a good question. Actually, my father was dean of law school,
Oh, okay.
so somehow my father. We were very young, and my father had a passion for medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And my brother, when he went into medicine, my
Mm-hmm.
elder brother,
Mm-hmm.
literally it was kind of a gateway for us to go into medicine, and I was fortunate to get into one of the premier medical colleges.
Mm-hmm.
But in answer to your question, I always had a passion for medicine.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
always felt that you could make a big difference by going into medicine. And particularly in those days in India, when I was growing up, there was a wide gap between what you could do as a doctor and what
Mm-hmm.
was being done. I always thought that I could make a difference, and I had the later you will read it in the book also. I had the vision to go to rural areas and serve the people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But when my brother, when I went into medicine, I enjoyed medicine so much. I enjoyed cardiology. I was really one of the tops in the class in cardiology.
Mm-hmm.
But then I wanted to learn more about the high-end work of cardiology. That is what made me immigrate to US.
Mm, okay.
That was part of the story. But
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Okay. Cool. And you went to the United States to study cardiology. I understand. But then,
No, I had the vision of doing cardiology, but what
okay.
happened was, things change. When I was in University of Virginia,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I did a thing called a rotating internship. I
Okay.
was through different departments, and when I saw what was happening in oncology,
Mm-hmm.
it was a challenging field in 1975
Mm-hmm.
because I saw patients coming in every advanced stages, no definite treatment,
Mm-hmm.
lot of pain medicines being used.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of really, for my mind, why should somebody get cancer?
Mm-hmm.
And why is it that there is no therapy? Why is your own body produces cancer cells,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
how is it we cannot come up with a treatment? That is what challenged me.
Mm-hmm.
So when I wrote to, at that time, I asked my professor there, really, I want to know all about oncology.
Okay.
Where do you think I should go? And
Okay.
even though
Okay.
University of Virginia was good,
Uh-huh.
he
Uh-huh.
said, maybe you can go to Mecca of oncology, like MD Anderson, he said. So
Mm.
I just, wrote a note. At that time, of course, there was no internet and
Yes.
nothing, no those things. So I wrote a nice mail.
Okay.
And they wrote back to me and said, look, for 3 years, we don't have any position, but if you want to come for interview, you can.
Okay.
So I took a Greyhound bus and went, to
Mm-hmm.
Houston.
All right.
It was a great journey for me seeing the real America at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But in Houston, when I met the professor and the person who was heading radiation was considered father of radiation oncology, Dr. Fletcher.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent 3 days. I wanted to do a lot of research. So at the end of 3 days, long behold, they kind of came back and said, look, we are impressed with you.
Mm-hmm.
We want you to join right away. So that
Okay.
was a big plus for me. And that was a game changer in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So my professor in Virginia was unhappy, but
Mm-hmm. Okay.
for
Okay.
me, it was going to the real destination of oncology and understanding those years were really changed my whole life, I can say very easily. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Okay. So I have to ask, what was it about oncology at the time that made you decide to enter it? I mean, were there like changes, technical changes ongoing that made you excited? What was it about the field?
See, in oncology at that time, most of the patients were getting palliative care. Patients, we never used the word cure.
Uh-huh,
We
uh-huh,
didn't talk about long-term survivors.
uh-huh.
People got radiation, and chemotherapy was making people a lot of sickness because it was even killing the normal cells.
Right, right.
Surgery was very heroic. So I felt, this somehow I felt, and I was only 23 years old then,
Mm-hmm.
I felt something is not right here. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think we are understanding oncology.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas cardiology, I felt there was some understanding of cardiology. We knew why somebody has a heart attack, what
Right.
happens to the arteries. So
Yeah.
I felt this is something which there is immunology. What is the body's response? There's so many unanswered questions were there. That
Mm-hmm.
is what kind of intrigued me, and
Mm-hmm.
and kind of what I call as an internal compulsion for me to say
Mm.
you should go into this field. And
Mm-hmm.
very few people were going into this field because the feeling was oncology is a very depressing field.
Mm-hmm.
Why
Mm-hmm.
would you like to go? But I always in my life, as you can read in the book, I loved challenges.
Right.
I was like always for the underdog, and I considered oncology patients are somewhat not well treated or well respected
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because we use the words victim of cancer and
Uh-huh.
survivor of cancer. I didn't like all
Uh-huh.
those words. They are not victims of anything, they are individuals. So
Right.
with that in mind, I said I should go to the best of place.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went to MD Anderson, it truly was the best of place.
Uh-huh.
And patients came from all over United States, Latin America. I got to meet people from different ethnic background, different philosophy. I remember patients coming for phase 1 trials,
Mm-hmm.
early trial, and saying, I would say, Mr. Cohen, really, do you want to take this treatment? What are the side effects? I remember a patient telling me, doctor, whatever happens, I am okay because my body is for experiment. If
Uh-huh.
something happens to me, at least you will learn something. So
Uh-huh.
phenomenal experience, both for me philosophically as well as technically,
Mm-hmm.
understanding the disease. So that is what really made me take up oncology as a lifetime career for me.
Nice, nice. And if I may ask, what's the biggest thing you got from your experience in I being an oncologist?
I think the biggest thing I can say, is whenever you treat patients, you always think these are oncology patients, they're victims, they'll be depressed. But
Right, right.
so many patients I came across in my life, even patients who were considered advanced.
Mm-hmm.
I remember a patient who I was treated her for nearly 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it was on a Sunday afternoon. And her blood pressure was 60 by 0 because all the treatments had failed. Finally, she had
Wow.
multi disease, and I took care of her for 7, 8 years. I knew her very well, her family. It was so when I went there, the family had gone out of the room.
Uh-huh.
I was in tears. I was trying and I was crying. I couldn't. I was holding her hand,
Mm-hmm.
and she, took like a Kleenex and a wiped my tears and said, "Doctor AJ, you have given me good 7 years. I achieved all things in my life, what I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to." So she was consoling me. Here is a patient who is consoling the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big takeaway message for me about, I called it onco philosophy.
Right.
You know, in the
Okay,
sense
okay.
you learn a lot from patients while you are treating the patients, you are taking care of them,
Mm-hmm.
and they are not going to live more than few minutes, but
Mm-hmm.
still they are smiling and consoling you.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great takeaway message about life in general. It makes you very reflective. It makes
Wow.
you really look at the life in a different way, look
Mm-hmm.
at the world in a different way, and you really begin to understand what really true friendship, true love is in this world, and
Mm-hmm.
what makes us tick, essentially, in a
Right.
strange way. And what are the really do's and don'ts So it gives you a lot food for thought, Alex. I can say very clearly, and that has changed my life in really in terms of that kind of experience is what made me motivate to come back to India. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Cool. Okay. So yeah, it's interesting you mentioned going back to India because that was the next thing I was going to ask about. What made you decide to want to go back to India? I mean, you were practicing in the United States for 20 years.
Yeah.
What made you want to go back to India?
Yeah, Alex, I had a very good practice. In fact, people came from 100-mile radius, and I was known as Dr. AJ, and a lot of things happened.
Mm-hmm.
But all along, somehow I felt I did my medical training in India.
Mm-hmm.
I knew what was the situation in 1985. In fact, after I got married in 82, both of us traveled across India for 6 months. I took off. I had partners in the United States. I told my partners I'm taking off 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
really wanted to understand India, the cancer situation in India.
Right.
And I saw at that time we were still using cobalt therapy, which was actually not used in the United States anymore at that time.
Uh-huh.
Then it was a very kind of inferior form of treatment
Uh-huh.
because of the cost. And I saw people I remember in one city in India, a kid waiting with a tumor in the abdomen for almost 14 hours to get treatment. That is
Wow.
when, you know what, I have to come here. I know the government can only do so much.
Mm-hmm.
I have immense knowledge. I know how to set up cancer centers.
Mm-hmm.
So I should plan on coming back.
Mm-hmm.
That is when I started planning. And after nearly 15, 16 years after that, I had completed and moved back to India in 2003. What
Mm-hmm.
really, in a nutshell, what compelled me to come is I had all the knowledge. I had learned a lot
Mm-hmm.
about cancer. I thought, and I was also confident. The MD Anderson training gave me immense confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I had all the elements to come back to India and start something on my own as
Right.
a entrepreneur, a doctor entrepreneur. That is what motivated me.
All right. Cool. So you just mentioned just now that you had some experience setting up cancer centers.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you how did that come about? I mean, because I'm thinking if you're a doctor, I mean, you focus on oncology and focus on practice. It's my understanding you don't really focus on setting up a center on your own.
No, what happened was in US, I had an opportunity. There's a story to that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
uh,
Cool.
MD Anderson wanted me to stay and they develop a lung cancer program because I had dual training
Uh-huh.
in
Uh-huh.
radiation and medical oncology, especially in research.
Uh-huh.
So they wanted me to head the lung program. I was given a assistant professor post,
Mm-hmm.
but somehow I felt if I take up that position, I will forever be in academia. I will ever
Mm-hmm.
be in a researcher. So is that what I want? If I want to go back to India, I should really learn the ropes of how to start a center and
Uh-huh.
understand the nuances of that. So
Mm.
that is when I had an opportunity in a place 3 hours west of Chicago. That is where I kind of started the center from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
And the community did not have any cancer center.
Mm-hmm.
So I started, and the community really helped me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The doctors were great help. So coming in as a Indian doctor, setting up there was a phenomenal experience for me from scratch and making it very popular.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Within I would say within few months, I used to see 150 patients a day. I got overloaded, and honestly,
Okay. Okay.
that gave me a confidence and then that is when I brought in partners
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
became very well known. And that is when I thought, now if I can do here, if I understand, now one day I will do it in someday I will do in India. So I
Right. Right.
started working on those models.
Mm, okay, right, and I mean, I guess it's I mean, I guess you're able to really apply the lessons learned there. I mean, to
Yeah.
creating HCG.
Yes, yes.
Mm. Okay, so here's a little tidbit that I got. You got a grant from the American government or some American government agency to
No,
is
no, I
this?
didn't get any grant. I
Okay.
applied for a tax exempt status on 501c.
Okay,
So
okay.
the fortunate thing was one of the lawyers in the town.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to him, say, how can I first build a, say, like everybody else, I wanted to build a not-for-profit center to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
I chose a city about 3 hours from Bangalore, like a city with a lot of rural areas surrounding it. So
Right.
I said, let me start not for profit. Obviously idealism. I don't want to make any money. I want to do
Right.
center.
Right.
So I applied to US tax exempt status and saying I want to do this in India.
Mm-hmm.
I was literally my lawyer was not sure whether we can get it. But
Okay.
honestly, I was so surprised when they said, okay, you want to help the country of your origin,
Mm-hmm.
we will give you a tax exempt status.
Oh, okay.
That helped me to donate money from my earnings. And
Mm-hmm.
that is what I initially put it as a seed capital to start the first
Ah.
nonprofit center in Mysore.
Mm-hmm.
But having started that, I realized if I want to really do something on a large scale,
All right.
it is not possible to do as a not-profit center
Right.
unless I go and ask a lot of people to say, here I am doing a great job, please give me donations.
Right.
My
Right.
DNA is not like that. I don't ask any donations from anyone.
Okay.
I am like a true entrepreneur. I can do it myself. That
Uh-huh.
is
Okay.
the DNA of me. So I said, that is when I said, let me switch gears
Mm-hmm.
and let me do it as a for-profit. But as you can see from the Harvard, Harvard chose us as a study afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
They called us modern day Robin Hoods because
Okay.
what we did was cross subsidy. When I started at CG, even though it is for profit, we never taken any dividends.
Mm-hmm.
All the money we generate is put back into the system
Mm-hmm.
to bring in more technology and train people, bring in
Mm.
better doctors. And today in India, we have 24 centers across India and Africa emerging market. Because of that, we have
Mm.
been able to manage such a way the funds are put back and we use a hub and spoke model. All of that has helped me to create these centers of excellence. And that is what Harvard was really surprised about,
Mm-hmm.
that how can you create this kind of a model where nowhere in the world it has been done? What
Right.
has been the, so they did a case study on me.
Right. Nice. Nice. And yeah, and I'd like to talk a little bit about the financial aspect, the business aspect, because I'm thinking, well, for starters, when you're building up something like this, you have to find investors, you have to find people who are willing to put money into this, and in a sense, buy into the big dream.
Yeah.
What was it like for you? I mean, when you're starting off. I mean, I guess it's not a problem now because you're well known, but what was it like for you to start? How did you get
Yeah.
these people?
The macro environment in India in early 2000 was not good.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine where there is if you want to bring in new technology, there is a huge custom duty, 40%.
Wow.
Interest rates were like 18% interest rates.
Uh-huh.
So,
Wow.
so
Okay.
it was like, yeah, so I had to innovate the model. So
Mm-hmm.
initially, nobody will invest until you have certain things going for you.
Right.
And I didn't go for any venture capitalism. At that time, it was very unusual in healthcare for venture capitalists to come.
Right.
So I had to really first prove that I can do something
Mm-hmm.
as an entrepreneur before I bring in any private equity.
Oh,
So
okay.
that is when I went to big companies like Siemens,
Mm-hmm.
and I met their board, and with a passion, I said, you should really see how you can help us with technology, give us funding at a low interest rate.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the game changer was when Siemens said, okay, at a 4% interest rate, they gave me about $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
So $8 million, sorry, $8 million.
Mm-hmm.
I think that helped me to kickstart a few first center.
Mm-hmm.
So when I made that center very efficient, by that time, I had moved to India in 2003.
Mm-hmm.
Then I started knocking on the doors, like you see in a movie, like go and knock on the doors of
Okay.
private equity and say, I have a
Right.
plan, I have a
Right.
great deal.
Right.
So, but I know a lot of doors were shut.
Mm-hmm.
People, looked at me and said, come on, how can you succeed in oncology? What are
Right.
you talking
Right.
about? People said, get on with it. So finally, there was an infrastructure group called IDF,
Mm-hmm.
India Infrastructure Group, autonomous body.
Mm-hmm.
There was a guy called Luis Miranda who was actually an MBA from Chicago
Mm-hmm.
University, well knowledge about outside world.
Mm-hmm.
He actually took pity on me. He came to my
Okay.
Chicago apartment, also saw me, And he said, okay, doctor, here is $10 million I'll give you. I
Mm-hmm.
want to see what you can do. So
Okay.
first private
Okay.
equity, then of course, once I succeeded, I had nearly four. At one time, I had four private equity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All of them, I gave, even though I never promised them any returns, I said, look, in healthcare, I cannot promise.
Right.
I remember once having breakfast in New York with one of the private equity.
Mm-hmm.
The lady who was head of that said, doctor, we expect minimum 25% return.
Mm-hmm.
I said, in that case, I don't think I want to be your client. I said, I cannot be. I can never give you that kind of return,
Mm-hmm.
but I can never promise.
Uh-huh.
But in reality, all of them got, like 2x, 3x return, all
Mm.
the private equity, even one of them, Singapore government under the name of Timasak,
Mm-hmm.
even though we went public, they're still our partners, almost 10%. So
Wow.
the journey has been very good. We have been able to expand because of the private equity.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the good things is, Alex, because of lot of issues, I have never taken a single rupee grant from the government.
Mm-hmm.
Not a land, not a grant.
Mm-hmm.
I took this decision because, there are a lot of issues, transparency issues. Government can always come and ask questions, and there could be a lot of things, particularly in a growing economy
Right.
like India. So I decided, as an entrepreneur, I want to, either you swim or drown, I don't matter, doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to show what I can do on my own
All right.
without any help from any government grants, no
Mm.
freebies.
Mm.
And money, when money comes, I have to be accountable. I have to make sure fiscally responsible, fiducial duty towards the investor. All of that is in my DNA. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to make sure I build a team, a culturally that kind of team. And we have never bribed anyone. We have never taken given money to anyone. All of this has been done in a very transparent way,
Mm-hmm.
and that is what today the financial community recognizes us for that.
Mm.
And I'm very myself and our team. We have nearly 400 oncologists
Mm-hmm.
across India, and we all take pride in this kind of a cultural thing we have.
Mm-hmm.
Do the right thing for the patient, never compromise, but do it the right way.
Mm.
Okay.
All right. Nice. Nice. And this is interesting because I mean, uh, you're an entrepreneur, which means you handle the business side of things, but you're also a doctor. And, when I think of financial stuff, I think of return investment, profit margins, the bottom line,
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that. And this is not, it's seen as not in accord with a humanitarian venture, where you put people
Right.
first. So how do you balance the two? I mean, at the end of the day, you've got to make money in order to expand, in order to improve your services.
See, one of the clear way to balance is what I said, the cross subsidy.
Mm-hmm.
We don't deny treatment to anyone. In India, unfortunately, unlike in US, everybody doesn't have insurance.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people who pay out of pocket.
Okay.
But people, but the cost of services is 1/8 the cost of US.
Mm-hmm.
For the same service, it is 1/8 the cost.
Mm-hmm.
So the cost is low, but the paying capacity per capita income is low. So that makes it difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is we put certain charges for certain services.
Mm-hmm.
People who can pay obviously will pay.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we have a system to recognize who needs financial assistance or who cannot,
Mm-hmm.
so we overcome. For example, let us say we have a technology like a CyberKnife,
Mm-hmm.
which is a very high-end radio surgery treatment.
Okay.
In US, it's something like $25,000. In India, like $8,000 for treatment.
Uh-huh.
But if somebody needs treatment, literally at no price or very subsidized, we just
Mm-hmm.
ask them to come at different times,
Mm-hmm.
like maybe 10 o'clock in the night.
I
So we
see.
have a doctor, everybody. So we treat them because machine is there, the technology is there, room
Mm-hmm.
is there. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
So that has given us a lot of goodwill. At the same time, people who really deserve treatment, we don't have to turn them away.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the model, which has worked very well for us. Hub and spoke model, cross subsidy,
Mm-hmm.
and you are absolutely right. How can you charge? But one of the areas where we feel very good about is the fact that we are doing even for people who can afford at a substantially lower cost compared to the global cost.
Mm-hmm.
Singapore, which is only 3.5 hours away from me,
Mm-hmm.
is 8 times more expensive, Alex.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right.
So that is itself is a great service to the public.
Mm-hmm.
That is how we look upon with all that. Because we go for capacity utilization,
Mm-hmm.
we have reasonably good margin, and
Mm-hmm.
we are being able to give fairly good return. I'm not saying that it is obnoxiously high,
Okay.
but like when you look at what we call it the EBITDA margin, our margin maybe 18-20%. We make sure it is what it is. It should not be 30%. There
Mm-hmm.
is something wrong, obviously, or
Right.
it should not be 8 to 10% where you cannot service your debt.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to balance. It's a balancing act.
Mm-hmm.
Balance between the technology, balance between the financially making it viable.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, make sure it is patient centric. That
Mm-hmm.
is the hallmark of any good organization, and that is what we have been able to do
Mm-hmm.
very successfully. And hope in Africa also we are now doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, that will also be a success.
All right. Right. Okay. Nice. Nice. And so, uh, switching gears a little bit about the book, what made you decide to write this? I mean, you didn't have to. You're a successful doctorpreneur. I mean, you're doing pretty well. So, what made you decide to write this?
See, the year was 2001.
Okay.
I was in Boston. I had already left my practice. I was in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
I had earned quite a bit, and the markets were booming at that time before the bust happened.
Mm-hmm.
But as you can see from my first page of the book, the bust happened, and I lost literally all my wealth.
Oh.
And I was trying to come between. I just had my twin girls, and they were just newborn,
Mm-hmm.
and I had all the grand plans.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went bust. Then I had to sell the house. It was on a beach. I had to sell the house.
Right.
But before I sold the house, I was thinking what to do. I kind of walked in the ocean.
Uh-huh.
As I walked in the ocean, I was thinking, man, I've lost everything, my dreams. I have responsibility. I started a lot of women empowerment programs in India.
Mm-hmm.
Lot of people were dependent on me.
Mm-hmm.
Here I've lost everything.
All right.
From $20 million, had come down to $500,000.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like in a state of shock, and I was thinking maybe I should just keep walking in the ocean, not
Uh-huh.
return. But then I thought, look, I like challenges. I
Mm-hmm.
want to really do something.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm not going to give up. It was about 2 o'clock in the night.
Okay.
That is when I returned back, woke up my wife and said, no, I'm going to sell this out. We had just remodeled the house. It was a beautiful house on the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And she was shell-shocked. And of course, she was very supportive.
Mm-hmm.
So that took me on a journey to achieve this HCG and all. I said, no, I'm going to go back. I'm not going to give up.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, my wife suggested maybe you should go back to practice here, do things. But I
Right.
said, no. As an entrepreneur, even if I lose everything I have, I'm going to do it. You have to support me.
Mm-hmm.
So that is those things as I reflected a couple of years ago. I said, you know what? And also my son has a muscular dystrophy disease.
Uh-huh.
How I know people thought he will not live beyond 15 years. He's a Duchenne muscular.
Mm-hmm.
University of major universities in US said he will not live beyond 15 when he was born in 1990.
Right.
But today he's 30 years still living,
Mm-hmm.
and still he's done his master's in psychology.
Wow.
And a couple of times he was very sick. We have been able to pull him out of that,
Mm-hmm.
and he's very healthy now.
Mm-hmm.
So all of this really made me think maybe I should write a story. Why not? And my son-in-law, who is from US, my daughter and all have moved here, and my son-in-law is also a US citizen. My daughter also, all of them are.
All right.
He suggested the name of the book as Excellence Has No Borders,
Mm-hmm.
because he said, whether it is India, Africa, US, when it comes to excellence, there should be no borders. When
Right.
it comes to the treatment, they should be treated only one way, the right way.
Mm-hmm.
And also whether you're Indian, American, or whatever ethnicity you are, if you're good, you're good.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. You can't be saying that you have to be a white American to be good or a
Right.
white Indian to be good. Anybody can be good.
Right.
It depends who you are and what kind of passion you have.
Mm.
So I looked upon that, it doesn't matter what race you are and what country you come from,
Right.
except really has no borders. I thought it was a good name to give for my journey, and that is why, I kind of wrote that book, and Penguin was fortunately said they will take it up, publish it. It has been, and I published it in the Big Literally Fest. It has been well received. So hopefully people will come to read. And the message is very clear. There's nothing which is not achievable in life.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing is impossible.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you make up your mind, if you have a focused factory approach, you can certainly do it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to come from a rich family. You don't have to come from great education. Whatever it is, you can achieve if you want to. That is what I thought should be the message in various walks of life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about doing a computer industry, becoming a serial entrepreneur. And I consider myself as a social entrepreneur.
Uh-huh.
With a cause, I took it up and have succeeded. And even the women empowerment I do for nearly 25,000 women we have empowered and changed their lifestyle as a pilot project. All of that goes to show certainly more things are achievable for human beings that what they can do, they think. Possibly we use only 25% of our capacity in a normal lifespan. Lot more we can do in life, I think.
Right. Okay, cool. All right, great. I got that. Okay, cool. Okay, so Dr. Ajaikumar, in the last minute or so of this interview, are there any words of wisdom you'd like to share, maybe to inspire our listeners?
I think like I said, the only inspiration I like to give is we have to look upon other human beings, love, affection. When particularly as a doctor, we should look each patient as being patient centric. We should look upon them. How would I treat this person if she is my own mother, sister, brother, or father? And really show that kind of compassion, love, and do the right thing for that person. So from this cue, you can really do, need not be just as a doctor patient, it can be for the entire humanity. I think these days, as you know, we see a lot of issues, lot of self-centered people. What is in it for me?
Right.
I think we have to take it out. What is, rather than me, what can we do for others is the most important thing.
Right.
And that is what I think the book shows. Really, it is so much we can give to this world, to the people who are have-nots, and all of us. There is so much wealth in the world, Alex, and only if we can share. In India and in the US also, for what bothers me, the great inequality in the system. We have the richest of the rich and we have the poorest of the poor. Huge gap. That bothers me a lot. So the message is, each one of us, if we can contribute, most of us are well-to-do in the middle class family, upper middle class. If we can only contribute, we can make a world of a difference for the environment, for the human beings, and an upliftment of really the people. And also, I am a firm believer, I'm a vegetarian. I believe all the living things deserve respect. I think that is my next goal, to see how you try to work on that. We should be reflective, if we introspect, if a conscious is our keeper, and that's all. And I think then we can achieve a lot.
Yeah, okay, well.
And I like to, from cancer care, one of the things I've learned is to bring positive vibrations. I always look at glass half full rather than empty. And that also makes a huge difference for how we look at this world and how we contribute to this, to the global environment and global, human beings in general. Okay.
Right. Great. And distillation, I guess, of your lifetime's lessons. So thank you very much for sharing that.
Thanks, Alex.
Okay, so cool. So in closing then, the book is Excellence Has No Borders: How a Doctorpreneur Created a World-Class Cancer Hospital Chain. The guests are author Dr. Ajaikumar. You can find this book on Amazon. So Dr. Ajaikumar, thank you very much for being an author story. It was really great being able to speak to you.
Thank you very much, Alex. You were a great interviewer. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So
Thanks.
Everyone, check out Excellence Has No Borders, and also feel free to comment and like this episode as well, to subscribe and join us to listen to the future people and stories we will cover. So see you guys all next time on Author Story, where we get to talk to another guest about their most interesting story.